And good evening, folks. We are back. We are going to try and keep the phone from ringing. There's a lot going on over right now. I'm going to have to mute that. I do have some stuff coming up that I think you guys are going to like. But we're going to talk about now, at least, what's going on today. A lot of rumors going on out there. Nothing really has happened yet. Donnie Couch, I'm glad you brought that up. Nothing has happened yet with Justin Houston. The reports that he was cut are premature, although I think that is coming if they can't find a trade partner. What's up, Sam? How are you? Gary, how are you? I'm doing well. Tonight's beer is Little Mo Porter from Elevation. Good company, good beer. Anyway, so the demise of Justin Houston has not actually come to pass yet, folks. I think it will be, but they are exploring trades, and they should be. He's a valuable commodity, and I think that they may still be able to pull something off. So don't believe every report you see that say that he's gone already. He will be cut if they can't get it done. I think that's obviously the way that he needs to go. I appreciate all you guys hanging out, and I'm seeing great comments already. I appreciate that. These are fun for me because we get to do a bunch of stuff all at once. Tonight's going to be cut a little bit short because at the top of the hour here, I'm talking with Matt Waldman of the RSP and all of his scouting stuff for the Locked On Chiefs podcast. So make sure you check out the podcast too. It's not quite video, but it's something different. And Matt has a great YouTube channel too. I'll try to put that in the notes as well. So Houston's still here right now as of Monday evening. Ford has the tag. So the interesting thing about that, they made it non-exclusive. So if somebody does really want D Ford and his agent can find that, they can try to put together a contract offer sheet. If they get an offer sheet, the Chiefs can either match it or they can decline to. And if D signs with them, he can go with the other team, but the other team will owe the Chiefs 2 first-round picks. And I believe the rule says it's in consecutive years, but I'm not 100% about that. So it'll be a little iffy. We'll have to look that up if that comes to pass. A lot of tags were put on today. The one that was not is Landon Collins. And if this is going to go this way, that the Chiefs are going to tag Ford, that they're either going to trade or release Justin Houston to get that money off their books, then they certainly have enough money to sign Landon Collins or Earl Thomas. Those are the two that I would go after in terms of safety free agency. They seem very, very convinced that they're going to be back, that Eric Berry's going to be back to normal, and their secondary has a chance to be what it used to be. So I think that's important, and that's kind of putting a tint on everything that they're doing going forward. So I'm not 100% convinced of that. I'm still a little worried about that foot. Saying that he was healthy before and he didn't feel he could play, and now you're going to do nothing, and that Eric Berry's going to be miraculously healed. I don't know that time is going to do that. I'm trying to get with Dr. Chow. David Chow, you've seen him on Twitter and on NFL Network and all that, as well as Sirius XM on the NFL channel. Trying to get with him. He's been on the podcast before, and he says that you can, because it's such an invasive procedure, if it's truly dealing with the Haglund's deformity that's around the base of the insertion of the Achilles tendon, that's kind of a serious injury. A lot of times they have to take the tendon off, repair it, rebuild it, the whole 9 yards. So that's kind of an invasive procedure. There's also bone spurs that can just show up at the bottom of the heel. And if that's it, then it's just shaving that off. It's a much simpler procedure. So I'm shocked that they don't want to do anything and they think it's just going to heal on its own and he's good to go. There may be more to this story this offseason. We don't know. But those two things, they got to get the back of the defense figured out. And here's the thing. They got to do the safeties in free agency. I feel like that's really the key to locking everything else down, because the safeties are deep, but I don't think there's anybody really exceptional in the draft class. Although I do keep hearing over and over, and I think Sam put something out about this today. Taylor Rapp's a name that I've heard from two people that have a lot of inside connections, one being Tony Pauline of draftanalyst.com. He's also a guy that's been on the podcast, and you guys know from his stuff that he knows a lot of people in the league. I've also heard from somebody else that was in Indy that heard the same thing. So maybe that's a direction they're going. I'm still concerned about the corners. I think you guys are talking about the corners in here. I do see a couple of questions. I'll start that up here in just a minute because we don't have a ton of time tonight. But I do want to say, if you want to contribute to the channel at all, make sure you hit the little $ on the chat, and you can throw whatever at and ask me a question. It'll pop up. Those are called super chats, and they help the channel. So appreciate your time. Let's get to the questions. And if I'm reading correctly, does Casey trade for Collins? Collins would have to sign his tag. He would have to be tagged, which they say he's not. They do have till tomorrow afternoon. And then he would have to sign it, accepting the franchise tag, and then they would have to work on a trade. So it's not something that I think is going to happen very fast. So I don't think they're trading for Collins. They'll go after him in free agency because I think he's going to get there. Joseph Pierce, can we talk about Justin Hollies from Oregon and Jamal Davis from UConn at D end? Either guy would be a killer Sam in Spags defense. I haven't watched film on Davis at all. I've seen maybe one game of Oregon's defense where I was actually paying attention to the defense, not the offense. And Hollies looked okay. He didn't really stand out to me, so I'd have to go back and watch the film specifically for him. And while I'm not going to make a priority of that, he's on my list as I get through the process. We still got a couple of months, so I got a lot of film to still look at. Next question. That was good, though, Joseph. Wayne Meadbane. Zach Allen out of Boston College in the first 2 rounds. Not for me, no. He's not explosive. He's not an edge bender. He doesn't play with that much power. He's a steady guy, but I don't think he's any better than Speaks is at the NFL level. So I don't see anything there worth taking until day 3 if he falls that far. Someone will, so I don't expect him to be a Chief. Mock drafts. Yeah, there's a ton of mock drafts. Our friends Ledgerd and Joe Marino and all the guys at the Draft Network, they have that new mock machine, and everybody seems to like it. Chris Clark on the podcast is doing a ton of those. So check it out if you like, and let me know what you think. I haven't had a chance to mess with it yet. Would I go after, thank you, Donnie, Earl or Bryce Callahan? Bryce Callahan's best in the slot, as far as I can tell. And you have Fuller for that. You need outside big corners that can play man. So I would go after Earl Thomas. I'm still okay with the leg fracture. I'm not worried about that injury. And I know that he can still be elite at the free safety spot. And I think that's what this defense needs. Joe, it was Akron, not UConn. Okay, fair enough. Rock Ya-Sin to the Chiefs. Yeah, and I'm hearing people say that he's rising. I don't think teams are going to bump him up that high. I think he was a third, maybe late round, second round talent on most teams' boards from what I've heard. So maybe he goes in the mid-second, but I don't think this first round stuff for Rock Ya-Sin is really going to happen, especially when the top 3, Williams, Murphy, and Baker are all had kind of a lackluster combine. So again, I don't think that drops them out of the first, but I think maybe they go a few picks lower. So that's something to look at. Gary Holland, what do you think of Notre Dame's Julian Love? I think he's a solid corner. I've only watched one Notre Dame game, and I was watching for the linebackers, which were totally unimpressive to me, by the way. So I got to go back and look for him, but didn't show up in a bad way, didn't really stand out as anything extraordinary. So as maybe a third round kind of guy, maybe he's solid. But my thing is, this team needs a shutdown corner. I don't know if there's one in here, but if there is, they got to do it in the first round. They got to maybe go up to get it. Good question, though. Dakota, trade Barry and Houston. You're not going to get many suitors, I don't think, for either. Maybe Houston, but I don't think you're going to get anybody looking to trade for Eric Berry. Do you think we take 2 corners, one in the first and one in the second? With the 3 picks, I think it's a definite possibility. Maybe both of the seconds. Maybe you do something with the other first. I don't know. But yeah, they could take 2. I just don't think there's enough guys available via trade or free agency that's really going to help you. Good question. That was Casey Fire, by the way. Sorry. I forgot about that. Abrams would be great. Yeah. Sam. Yeah. Sam did have something at PFF_Chiefs. Check out Sam's work on all the PFF guys. In fact, I'll be talking to Eric Eager later this week, and I may have something coming up in bigger detail with PFF. I did see DK Metcalf. That's why he's on the thumbnail for this video. So I've heard a lot of people talking about him. And Nicholas Johnson, you're the one who asked. I'm sorry, Nicholas, you talked about Clowney being franchised. The comment above you is Gary Stubberman. Sorry. Metcalf, yeah. Very, very athletic. I see a lot of Chiefs fans talking about, hey, they got to go up and get him so you can maximize the offense and not worry so much about the defense, because a lot of Chiefs fans seem to feel like there's nobody really elite at the corner or the edge that they can get to improve the defense. You're going to have middle tier guys. And so they want to maximize the offense. And I can understand that strategy. Here's the thing about Metcalf. Great in a straight line. He jumps pretty well. He doesn't change direction well. And I honestly ran his numbers through the athletic matrix this afternoon. And you know who the two comps are that I came back with? I'm going to give you guys a preview because I'm going to do a video about this later. The two comps that came back as most closely to DK Metcalf are Chris Conley and Dante Moncrief. Two players that are great in a straight line, that can jump high, but don't change direction very well. So that tells you that, and the neck injury scares me. It's a cervical C3 injury that he had. That is just, I don't know. His medicals might have more to do with where he's drafted come April than his running did at the combine. So I would hold off. I certainly wouldn't trade up to get him. Very intriguing prospect at the second or third round, but I'm not spending first round capital on him if it's me. Colby Chastain. Who's better, Derek Nottie or Xavier Williams? I think in this coming defense, where the D tackles are going to be able to penetrate more, I think Derek Nottie is. I can't say they're going to get rid of Williams, although I've heard people, theorize about that, Seth being one of them. I don't know. He's more of a plugger, but he can penetrate. He did in Arizona. So I think it's all kind of up for grabs right now with the Spags. And honestly, Daly, the new Chiefs line coach from the Patriots, he's gotten everything he can out of his D-line group. So I think whatever they see in Williams, he'll be able to get it out of him. So maybe he doesn't go anywhere. Clowney is staying in Texas. Yes, you're absolutely right. From what I see. Were you impressed with Byron's combine? I assume Byron Murphy, two brothers from another mother, 23. I was a little disappointed in his flat speed. I thought he'd get under 4.5. He didn't. But he looks smooth. He looks like a player. And I even put out on Twitter, somebody had out, and I think it was Steelers Depot or one of the sites that tracks the combine over the years that do a good job. And Steelers Depot is one of them. They tracked the first round corners that had been selected and their 40 times. And all the ones that were over 4.5, except for Marcus Peters, have not found much success in the NFL. And Marcus Peters, you can argue about. Yes, he played well with the Chiefs. I don't know, kind of a rough go in LA so far. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I don't know that bodes well for Murphy. I think it does bode well for if you do like him, and I do like him. He is the top corner on my list currently. I think he might drop into the 20s. So it makes him a little more available for the Chiefs. So that's a plus. Jeff Lever, any DBs that impressed you? The other Johnson, the kid from Houston that I haven't watched film on yet, intrigued me some. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. Joejuan Williams. I'm not sure about the testing numbers, but I appreciate what he brings, his length, and I think he moves a lot smoother than I expected him to. Turning, playing man, that's going to be important. Next question. Lazarus Dreschler. Le'Veon Bell as Hunt's replacements. Not in a million years. Not going to happen. The Chiefs are not going to let that attitude come into that locker room, especially at the price that somebody's going to pay him. I think Therese has said that he doesn't see that happening either. So between the two of us, I am 99.9%. Lev Bell is not coming to Kansas City. The DB class, like Curtis, it's a good question. The DB class as a whole, I think, is deep, but I'm not sure it's elite at any one position. Both the safeties and now the corners seem to having some of the shine come off of them. I don't think the top tier is elite, but I think there's a lot of depth. There's a lot of value in the second round, third round. That's what I'm thinking right now. Hard Night. Do you think signing D Ford for cheap and tag Nelson is what we did would be better? No, I don't think you want to sign D Ford to a long-term contract because he's had a serious injury history, and you want to keep him fresh and motivated. And Steve Nelson's going to get paid a lot more than the Chiefs want to pay him. He's probably going to get $8 million a year, and they just can't afford to do that. He's not a shutdown corner, and he doesn't deserve that, in my opinion. What does Casey do if they cut Houston and end up trading Ford? I don't think they do both. I think they're trying to get value there, and they may, but I don't think they do both. Let's see here. What about Baker from Georgia? I thought Baker looked decent. He ran slow, and then he stopped. So we don't have full data on him. He's going to do his pro day at Georgia, and I'll have a much better idea there about what he can do. But on film, he's my number 2, with Greedy Williams being right in there too. In fact, honestly, I've flip-flopped the 3 of them, Murphy, Greedy Williams, and Deandre Baker. I flipped them like 2 or 3 times now, just in the last 6 weeks since I started checking on them. So I'm sure it'll change more as everything gets kind of weighed in. We see the pro days, et cetera. I'm trying to catch up to the NFL teams who probably have all this work already done, and they don't really rely on the pro days as much. But for me, that's more important because I don't have that inside access all year round. Hakeem Butler looks like a solid guy. Interesting. Just don't think he's a first-round prospect, at least for this Chiefs team that you have Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill on. That's where I'm coming from. If he lasts to the second, I would give him a shot. I really like Marquise Brown. I don't think he'll last to the second, but maybe the injury and everything will bring him down. I think he could be a difference maker out of the slot to pair with Tyreek Hill. But, Hakeem looks all right. I haven't watched his film, but I can. Also, if you dug into Justin Lane, Sam, good question. I have not seen Justin Lane film yet. After this weekend, I think I'm going to have to. Definitely on my list. I started up front and I'll be working my way back as we go through the process. What happens to Dante Hall? Denta Hall? I'm not sure what that one is. Sorry. Don't recognize that one. Andrew Reed, I did talk about Taylor Rapp. I think he's on the Chiefs' radar. I think he had a good combine. I'm not sure he can play the free safeties, which is what I'm looking at. But if Barry's truly healthy, I think Barry can float to the back. And someone like him, Rapp in particular, could play the strong, which means you can move on from Dan Sorensen. Okay, Joe Pierce. After Amani or Warrior, from Penn. Comment do you feel about him at 29? I think 29 is too high for him. Warrior is a second rounder as far as I'm concerned. And what about Ja'Kai if he falls to the late third? Ja'Kai Polite is a really interesting question. He shot himself in the foot. He cost himself a lot of money this weekend. Because just like Reuben Foster, you can have all that film and all that stuff that the teams like, and they have a grade on you. And I always say that the teams don't really, they don't jump players around because of the combine. It's kind of a difference maker. That's why it's so important, because it can differentiate players within a tier, say, at a group of 10 or a group of 15 picks. But I think it can drop you. And I think Ja'Kai Polite showed that the attitude is not conducive to really fitting in. Definitely couldn't do a first rounder on him. Don't even know if I'd spend a second on it, but in the third, if he was there, I would consider him. I think he does have the athleticism. I think his game's a little one note, as are a lot of the pass rushers. And don't even get me started on Josh Allen. I'm nowhere near as high on him as most analysts are, but we'll talk about that another day. Who else? Earl Thomas, not a CB Lazarus, but a safety, and I did talk about him earlier. If you want, you can just hit the back button and go back to the beginning. It shows up. I didn't even know that until last week when one of you viewers showed me that, so I appreciate that. Late second, not third. Joseph. Okay. Ja'Kai, I don't know. He'd have to turn things around. It's going to be more about attitude than physicality, I think. What do you think we should get for a cornerback in the draft? And that's kind of what we're talking about. Those top 3. Then I like Trayvon Mullen. And then I would look at Joejuan Williams. But again, you got to look at his movement skills. I think he looks smoother than he did before. Beyond the top 5, I haven't really dug very much deeper into looking at film. I've looked at grades, and I'll look at the athleticism numbers as we get going here. Next, Steve Kramer. No matter what we have, Patrick, you're absolutely right. And honestly, I think that helps you get free agents like Landon Collins or Earl Thomas, or even if they did something outlandish, having that quarterback, the MVP, brings you guys, I think. Eric Eager is the GOAT, Sam, and a nice guy. Le'Veon Bell rumors, already talked about that. He's not coming to Kansas City. Are we on pace to possibly have an even worse defense for Mahomes' second year, Doug Peter? I don't think so. I think the bigger element of the downfall of the Chiefs defense last season was the coaching and the direction that it went, the passivity of the coaching. I think that's the bigger thing. I think if you turn these athletes loose, they have some talent. They have to fix some things, particularly at cornerback, first, foremost, and over again. They need to figure out what they're going to do at Sam. They might need another coverage linebacker. Not sure if Hitchens is really going to pay off or not, but this is going to be the season that he can. I think he probably rebounds, but that's just a gut instinct from the way he played in the 4-3 in in Dallas. Yes, Carson, I talked about that. Lazarus, appreciate the donation. Earl Thomas, instant defense change. What does Casey do about the ILB? And here's the thing. There's only one first-round inside linebacker in this draft, as far as I can see, and I've looked at a number of them. And Devin White is going to be gone long before the Chiefs want to pick. Moving up in the top 10 for a quarterback is one thing. Moving up there for an inside linebacker is not anywhere close. I'm not as much of a fan of Devin Bush, only because of his size, because I don't think he has any more take on than Hitchens does, or Ragland in particular. I don't see him as an upgrade. Maybe in the nickel, yeah, but definitely not against the run. And got to remember, the run is what was the Achilles heel of this team last year. Cameron Adrian, thank you for your donation in that question. Let's see. Any validity, Eric Streeter, about them going offense in the first round? I have no idea. And if I know Brett Veach, I know they'll pick something where it's best player available, probably at a position they could use. This offseason surgery for Travis Kelce puts tight end back on the possibility list. A week ago, I would have told you there's no way they go tight end in the first round. Now I'm not so sure. There could be a wide receiver. I don't know. I don't think it's worth it when you have bigger fish to fry at the cornerback position, at the edge rusher position, depending on what happens with all this stuff. I don't think the permanent answers are Breland Speaks and Tano Passanio, but I could be wrong. So either way, if you move on from Houston or Ford or both, you got to have more pass rushers. And I think that's probably where the value is at the end of the first round. Metcalf, David Boston, Gary Holland. I've heard that comparison before too. I don't remember David Boston being that rocked up, but I could be wrong. Jeff Lever, I agree with you. A bigger Desmond King is a good way to put it. I'm not a big fan of Drew Lock. Didn't watch a lot of him, but big arm, not sure it's all there between the ears as much. So we'll see what happens. He needs a good pro day, I think, to solidify himself as a guy that can make it in that league. He will get picked high, though. So in terms of getting paid, Missouri's going to have another guy that's going to get it. Curtis Douglas, have to move up into the teens to get one of the top 3 cornerbacks? I don't think so. I don't think they're going to be that highly coveted. I think you're going to see interior linemen and edge rushers go well before all 3 of the cornerbacks are gone at the top. Gary Holland, do you think that the Chiefs should draft Iowa Hakeem Butler? Talked about that a little bit ago. Could be a third wide receiver. I personally want to see somebody a little bit more change of direction, a little bit more Edelman-like, a smaller guy. Isabella, I can't remember, Paris, Marquise Brown. I mean, yeah, burners. Brown can do it all. If there was a way to get him, I think it's worth the risk. And there is a risk. Le'Veon Bell, nope. Count Ripula, I'm glad you're having a good dinner. I'm a little jealous. Where does Tillery end up in the draft? I don't know. I want to say he's going to be a top 20 pick. I just don't know where. When you start to look at where the needs are as it falls through, he might be somebody that slides a little bit just because of need. But he's definitely one of the guys that I think is going to be highly, highly touted amongst the interior linemen. And one of them blew out a pec at the combine, so maybe that changes things. The injury definitely would for me. We'll see what happens. Mitch, thank you. Curtis, thank you. We already got Williams. Yeah, we could do another one. Ivory Bridgewater, I agree with you. Trayvon Mullen is worth a second round, maybe even a little bit more. We'll see what he comes back with. I have to watch more of his tape, but that championship game alone shows you what he can do. Gary Holland, should the Chiefs sign Jared Cook? I think that's an interesting signing. I think pairing him with Kelsey could be very advantageous. I just don't know what the market is going to be on for him, and if he's going to be too expensive. That's going to be the big question. Aloha from Hawaii, mahalo. That's Lee. I like Buggs as an interior line, third roundish kind of guy. Isaiah Buggs out of Georgia. There's another guy I really liked, Sam Coward, who played edge in college, but I think he's going to be like a fourth, fifth round guy that you can plug in on the inside as a 3-tech and let him penetrate. Chiefs will pick up Adrian Amos or Trey Boston. They had a chance to pick up Boston last year and they didn't. Amos, I think, is probably going to want more money than they want to spend. I could be wrong. I think they go for the gusto and try to go after Collins and see what happens. Do you think we'll go after Jordan Humphrey for a late round pick? No, I don't. I don't think you would do that. I could be wrong. You don't know. Talked about Julian Love, Doctor. You can go back and hit the beginning of the video. It'll be in there. Trading up for Brian Burns. Man, he's intriguing. He's thin, especially in the lower body, but a lot of guys were when they came out. Von Miller was. Khalil Mack fairly was. He's intriguing because he can do it all. I like that guy. Better as a 3-4 outside linebacker, honestly. Same thing with Josh Allen. But in the way that Spags is going to deploy the 4-3 and the nickel in particular, I think he can do a lot. I think either of those guys can probably play the Sam on first down and then back off and be a pass rusher. I think that could work. Big Duke, I talked about Kelsey's ankle earlier and what that might mean. Best QB, it might be Locke. It might be Murray. I don't know. I haven't watched QB film much. I watched Locke only because he happened to be on live. I haven't watched film on quarterbacks because the Chiefs don't need one. Drew Lock. Yep. Julian Love, talked about him earlier too. You guys go back and watch the beginning of the video here. You can either rewind or it'll post as a new video here in a little bit. Because I'm just about out of here. Got to talk to Matt Waldman. I'm going to say I'd rather have all-pro cornerbacks. I'll tell you that right now. I can make do with safeties. And Sam, you're right. Okay, Tillery at 6163. Yeah, that could work. Oh, Matt M., thank you very much. I appreciate. Favorite college for prospects not named Georgia. I like the University of Washington DBs. I like LSU DBs. Their coaches get them prepared to play in the league. Ryan Owens, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm going to hang out. I got to go talk to Matt. I'll have that podcast up in a day or two. And we'll be back with a video later this week. If I could squeeze in an extra, I will. If not, next Monday night, and I'll give you guys more time than we had tonight. Thank you for all your questions and checking out the channel. Make sure you keep your eyes peeled. I'll have more content coming for you. Thank you all and have a good night.